Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Oh, let me get my ears. Hold on. What's shaking, party people? What's shaking? What's shaking? Hi, guys. Hey now, hey now. Happy Saturday. All right, y'all. We doing this thing. Happy. So let's dive right in because we've got two amazing guests. So in case you're new to my chats, very exciting time that I love actually when I get to share with everybody. This chat today on Saturdays, my chats are always sponsored by my lifestyle brand called Refresh by KF. Let me see your hands. Wave if you are already following Refresh. If you are, hey, John the Scribe, congratulations on your book, by the way. Yay. But anyway, we are talking about the power of words on Refresh. And my lifestyle brand is called Refresh by KF. Shink. And so I'm very excited about the brand. I started it on my birthday of this year on May 12th. And basically I wanted to have a platform where we could celebrate wellness, where we could celebrate life and breath and soul and spirit and caring for one another as we care for ourselves. And so the idea, the concept, refresh, is from the scripture Proverbs 11:26-5. It's been a minute, sorry. But it says, whomever refreshes others will be refreshed. I don't know why I'm so late on all the, yay, I see the hands now. All right. Hey, May 13th. So that's the concept with refresh, okay? And so the idea is to refresh others while we in turn can refresh ourselves. Anywho, just saying hey to you guys. We are talking today about the power of words. We are talking about how words can affect us, affect others. And so wanting to make sure that we understand how much power we have right here. And also the written word, of course. And so I'm excited to share with you guys today a couple of my absolute favorite writers. We basically wanted to bring to you guys two writers, Nicole Burnham and Prentice Penny. So Nicole is standing by now. Nicole, can you refresh your request for me, please? Pardon the pun. But Nicole is a wonderful author. We've got some great news to share about her brand. And so she has this amazing series of books that she's written called Royal Scandals. And I know you guys are going to be like, how is that refreshing? Because it is, honey. Because we get to have a bit of escapism, if you will. We get to be in other people's lives. Of course, it says my sound just cut out. Can you guys hear me still? Please give me a wave if you can still hear me. Otherwise, I will kill the ears. Can you guys still hear me okay? Hello. In the meantime, let me get Nicole in here. Oh, she's not here yet. Okay. Great, you guys can still hear me. Wonderful. So Nicole has this book series called The Royal Scandals. Thank you, everybody. You can hear me. So The Royal Scandals is Nicole's book series. And then she also has a Christmas line, a couple of Christmas books, again in that royal space. And what I really loved about her books, and I still do, is that she really shows the humanity of, well, where are you, Nicole Burnham? She really shows the humanity of the royal lifestyle, that sense of celebrity, that sense of, there you are, that sense of life. I'm up here constantly trying to fill in. You back? herself. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Nicole Burnham into the building. Here she comes. Hi, girl.
I was here all along. It just didn't see me.
Oh, I see. Everybody, welcome. Give it up to my good friend, Nicole Burnham. Yay, yay, yay. Welcome. Nicole comes on every chat. She's so amazing, and she's such a supportive friend. I really appreciate it.
And of course, my phone rings the minute I get on.
Hello from the UK. Hello from the UK.
Somebody will get that.
Somebody will get that. So let me tell you just quickly how Nicole and I connected. I love to read, as most of you know, and so I definitely love to read at night. And so I have a wonderful collection of books on my phone, and back in the day it was my Kindle. And so I came upon her writing, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then you guys, I promise you, I would just inhale these books. I mean, I could not get enough of them. I was reading them so quickly, and I just could not stop. You know, I loved her characters. I loved the storylines and everything. So we basically wanted to have Nicole on again from Refresh by KF, the lifestyle brand. Because we're talking about the power of words, and we have different ways that words can be utilized, different places that we can, access words, from cookbooks, how-tos and instructions. We certainly have novels and screenplays and all sorts of things. And so a little later on, we're going to be talking with one of my absolute favorite storytellers, Mr. Prentice Penny. Many of you know his work from, somebody says, Nicole, I'm a fan, girl. Emily March Books says that she's a fan. But Prentice will be joining us shortly. And he, of course, is the executive producer, one of the EPs on the amazing hit series Insecure. He also has written and directed not only several episodes of the show, but a wonderful movie on Netflix right now called Uncorked. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, yay, Nicole Burnham. Woo! So Nicole, first up for me is just, how did you, I'm sorry, just sound like somebody just flew up on my window. Nicole, so how did you fall in love with writing? How were you always, like, as a kid, writing stories, or was it just kind of out of boredom? How did this happen? How did we get your gift?
I mean, I wasn't so much a writer as I was a reader. I was lucky in that my parents always handed me every book I ever wanted to read, and that's a good escape. When you're a kid, I grew up in the era of, 3 TV stations, and there's only so much on, and somebody else probably has the TV. So, but I could read anything I wanted, and my parents never censored anything I read. So, that's how you learn about the world. Yeah. So, if you're a reader, you can live somebody else's life. You can walk in 1,000 people's shoes. And so that, to me, reading was the adventure. But eventually then, I just started writing because it was fun.
What was fun about it for you?
It's always like creating a playground. So, I like delving into the different characters and sort of, what makes them tick. It's when we read, you start to develop empathy for people because you start to walk in their shoes and see how they live. And so for me, it's also another way of exploring that is through writing about it. So I can create these characters and really think, well, how would they react in this situation, even if it's very different than how I would react. Right. So, it's curiosity. Plus, for me, research is fun. So.
Yes. Wonderful. So you were not like a lot of people, they train as a writer, or they go to school for it and they get all these degrees, and then they go off and backpack through some country and all sorts of things. There's so many different wonderful backstories that writers have in terms of how their writing journey began. And that doesn't quite sound like that's your testimony.
Not so much. I mean, I actually went to law school. You know, I thought if you like to read and you're a decent writer, hey, you know, be a lawyer. But to me, you know, I worked with wonderful people, but it wasn't something I was waking up every day burning to do. So, you know, I wanted to be able to wake up and play in a playground. You know, it's like, you know, some people are really passionate about their jobs. And I knew as I started to, you know, the more I read, the more I wanted to write. And it was something I became more passionate about. And I thought, you know, I think I can take a crack at this. Yeah. And it worked out.
Now, do you, and I know the answer, but, you know, just for the sake of this conversation, do you self-publish? Do you have a publisher? And do you deal with kind of that mega world? Or, you know, how accessible is writing professionally for anybody?
For anybody, you know, it's not an easy job, but, you know, for a lot of years I did write for, you know, some very big publishers in New York. You know, I sold my first book to a major publisher and several after that. But now everything I do is completely indie. I self-publish everything, but I like that because I like it because I have a certain amount of control. Yeah. You know, I've had books come out where, you know, as an author, you know, it's a big company decision on what goes on the back cover copy. And sometimes, you know, I would get those and go, well, you just spoiled the big twist in the book. But if, or, you know, or that, sometimes it would be, that really isn't what will attract my readers. And so because I'd written enough, I really had a good sense of who are the readers who would really enjoy this book. And so I can control a lot of, you know, what's on the back cover, you know, what does the cover look like? A lot of that and story elements. Sometimes, you know, you'll have people who, you know, at a publishing house say, well, you know what, we already have a story about this. So we can't take your story about it because we're afraid it will be similar. Even though, you know, you put two people down to write stories about, you know, a prince and a castle and they'll be completely different stories.
Different, sure.
So I really liked having that flexibility to write what I liked writing and what I knew readers would really enjoy. So, nice. And I could package it in a way that I knew my readers would find it. So and that's been great.
Well, we definitely find it. We definitely find it. So in terms of the royal space, how did you kind of get into that particular lane of storytelling and these wonderfully rich and complex characters?
Well, for me, I've always been fascinated with sort of the push-pull between people's public lives and their private lives. And the people who have to deal with that the most, you know, obviously anyone who's a celebrity, but sort of the pinnacle of that is somebody who has, you know, who's royal. You know, you think of Princess Diana or even, you know, William and Harry now. They can never escape coverage, and that coverage may or may not have anything to do really with who they are on the inside or the day decisions they make. So that fascinated me, and I thought, well, but then how can they pursue relationships in, you know, under that kind of scrutiny? So some of a lot of the books I write really deal with, you know, sort of that, how do different people with different personalities deal with that spotlight? You know, and how do the people who love them deal with that spotlight? Because anybody they deal with has to endure that. I mean, if, you know, look at all the coverage of Harry and Meghan right now. And, you know, so even though she was, you know, she's been an actor, she's been under the spotlight, it's nothing compared to what happens when you marry into a royal family. So that's always fascinating with me. And it can be approached from so many different ways depending on the characters that you create.
Well, guys, one of the reasons why I am excited to speak with Nicole today of all days is because this week was a huge week for Nicole and I jointly. You're the writer, so do you want to share our news, ma'am?
Well, I think maybe you should. Yeah, I think you should. You'd probably be better at explaining it, but it's a big week.
It's a big week. So Nicole and I have joined forces, and I have optioned her book series because, yay, because we are prepping the package to bring her wonderful stories and characters to the screen. And so it was just a really exciting win for both she and I, fans of each other's works, and to work together in this way, where we'll be producing these projects together, adapting her books for the screen. And I'm just so excited, so thrilled, you know. And here's the thing that was so great. The process, you know, I read somebody said that they really love reading about an author's process, which I do want to touch upon. But just so you know, the business side of it, the business process, we both were committed to making it really easy. And, you know, not getting bogged down with, you know, a whole bunch of language, speaking of the power of words, so much legalese that you can't get anything done. And so we are so excited to be able to do this. How do you feel? Because I know I'm ecstatic.
Because, you know, but one thing is having sat in on a lot of your chats, and I get a good sense, you know, speaking of the power of words, of your work ethic and how you view the world. And I think a lot of that resonated with me. And I thought, you know, this is somebody who looks at how to work cooperatively the same way I do. So that gives me obviously a lot of confidence in you. And I think, you know, you see the same thing in me. And, you know, who's going to complain when someone, you know, tells you, hey, Kim Fields really loved your books.
Right. Well, that's good to know. So what is your process? You know, I know that I'm learning and we are learning each other's creative process as well as our business acumen. But what is your process when you go, I have an idea? Does it come like that? Or do you just look at what you've got and then you build on that? I know you've got a new series of characters that kind of spun off from your first series of books, The Royal Scandals. So what's your process? What's your creative process like as a writer?
Well, usually I have an idea of either a character or a situation. So like in the first book of this series, Scandal with a Prince, you know, I really thought about, you know, there's so many, you know, secret baby books in the romance world, but, you know, I wanted it to feel very realistic. And I thought, you know, what would happen if somebody like a Prince William, you know, did his semester abroad, you know, he did like a semester abroad in, I think it was in Argentina, it was somewhere in South America. And I thought, what would happen, you know, if he dated someone briefly while he was there and she found out months later that she was pregnant, which is sort of what happened in Scandal with the Prince. And, but in that book, you know, I thought, you know, how would, you know, if you have just a short, you know, relationship with somebody who's that famous, how do you contact someone going through, you know, trying to get through a palace? And so that was sort of the start of that. And then I built from there.
So when you say you built from there, so do you, I mean, just kind of the nuts and bolts of it. So do you actually write like pen and paper? Are you a laptop tech person? Are you old school with it? Those kinds of things, you know, are you one of those where I've often read where writers talk about, I write every day or I commit to a writing schedule, even if nothing comes on the page, that sort of thing. What's your process in that regard?
Well, I wish it were the same with every book and nice and scheduled, but it really isn't. A lot of times I come up with, you know, ideas or parts of the story as I go along. So, you know, I'll have an idea in mind and I'll put, you know, some notes in my phone, and sometimes I'll save that for later because I'm working on another book. You know, it's, this is an interesting question, and I'll set it aside. But then, you know, once I have something like with Scandal with a Prince, where I had that firm idea, then, you know, I just take a lot of notes to myself as I go. You know, what would these characters be like? You know, what challenges would they face? And then usually I just start writing. I have an idea of where they're going to end up. And I have usually a really solid issue they have to face, and a lot of times multiple issues. And so, you know, for me, you know, it's, remember, you know, that old school 70s macrame where you kind of weave something back. That's how I build a story. You know, it's you know, I usually have several threads and I just try to wend them together. And so, usually I'll have one document open on my desk that's the story, and then off to the side I have a whole lot of notes. And as I work them in, they come off the notes and into the story, and then I also have the trash file.
Right.
Yeah, but for the most part, that's what I do. I don't outline in too much detail, because sometimes then the story loses its magic. For me.
Okay.
There are some writers who are really very hardcore, very detailed outliners. I like having a sense of it, but not every little detail, because if I am too tied into that, I miss some fun things about the characters that kind of pop into my head as I'm writing. So I can always delete it. If something doesn't work, it can go away. But in the moment, I like being able to just say, let me chase down that idea and see how it pans out. See what it does with these characters.
Speaking of the characters, someone wants to know, how do you find a character's voice? Great question.
That is a good question. For me, a lot of it is their upbringing, or who they surround themselves with. Or where did they go to school? What kind of occupation are they in? Even though I have a royal family in the current series as the core, they're surrounded by a lot of people who are in other professions, who've lived other types of lives. And even, royalty spend a lot of time doing charitable work. What has the experience been, and how has it shaped them? Right. And so I really think to those people's experiences. Yeah. And usually their voice comes from their experience.
Say that again. Usually the voice comes from the experience. But then that means that you've got to give them some really interesting experiences, right?
Yeah. So, but every person has good experiences and bad in their lives. Everybody. And and sometimes I think it's very easy to say, oh well, a certain person's life is boring, or nothing really happens, or they live in a certain bubble. But even there's a lot that's interesting to dig into. So, and then when you put somebody on in a spotlight, it really becomes fun.
Yeah. Guys, I see you. I see your waves. We've got a lot of wonderful comments on here. People really enjoying this. My sister Alexis, she says that she says that she liked one of your points about the voice and finding the characters and everything. My Uncle Charles, I think I saw you on here, and just lots of people saying hello. I saw someone saying hey, good evening from Dubai. So we've got lots of great comments and feedback here. So in terms of the characters and the storylines, how much do you draw from what's going on in the world? How much do you realize, what, we got enough of what's going on in the world. Let me give them something else. You know what I mean?
Right. Obviously, I write romance novels. So at their core, they're optimistic. So there's always that view of the world. But I mean, my stories really are, even though they're set, in palaces, they're realistic as far as people's emotions go. So sometimes though, I do draw from what's going on in real life. Like I remember years ago seeing a royal wedding on TV, and I was flipping back and forth between the wedding and war coverage, just because that's what happened to be on the news that day. And, I was flipping back and forth between the news, but that's what made me think, wow, if somebody who was royal encountered somebody who worked at, say, one of these refugee camps where people are fleeing a war, right? What would they have in common? What could they do to improve the world or the situation? And that ended up becoming the book, Going to the Castle.
And baby, it is a good book. I have read it. I was pleased to get an advance copy, and it is so good.
Thank you. But yeah, so sometimes those real life situations though make me start to ask what if. Yeah. And so a lot of the story situations come from real life what if. But I don't base a character, for instance, on a real person. I get that question a lot. Is so and so, really this other person? No.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that we have to wrap up. Obviously, guys, on Refresh by KF, we will have the complete uh, catalog that is Miss Nicole Burnham's books,
Oh, thank you.
and also how to reach her. But if you can let everyone know, because I know that they've got more questions for you, what's the best way to be able to say hello to you or give you feedback and tell you how much they love your books?
Oh, thanks. Well, I have a website, it's NicoleBurnham.com, and there's a contact button on there. I also, I have a newsletter, and actually anyone who signs up for the newsletter gets a free book. I've got some free stories that come with that. So
Nice.
That's always fun. So, you can
Yes.
see, is this the kind of read I want?
Yeah.
But, there's a way to contact me there. Obviously, I'm on Instagram, so I'm easy to find.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this has been so great. Thank you so much. Last question for you before you take off. What does the phrase "the power of words"? What does that mean to you?
It's like what I said when we first started. It's words are what make us unique as a species. We teach each other through stories and through words. Like you had told the story of your mom auditioning for Hello Dolly. And that to me was fascinating because just that short story, those few words, somebody who's never been around the theater can see what is it like? What is an audition like? They can live that experience. But they also can see something of your mother and her personality. They can learn about tenacity. They can learn about patience. And, they can learn a little about Pearl Bailey too. So, but sometimes those short stories, those few words can teach us so much and let us walk in someone else's shoes. And so I think there's a lot of power to stories and to words.
Yeah. Oh, this has been so great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Everybody give it up. Send some applause for Miss Nicole Burnham. She's phenomenal. She is fantastic. Looking forward to our new partnership.
Yes, I'm
excited. You were getting lots of love, lots of hearts, lots of applause. So thank you again. So everybody be sure to follow Nicole, friend her, whatever you are on. Definitely check out her website so that you guys can get some free goodies and, pop her on your summer reading list. Definitely. Thank you. Don't you go anywhere. I know we're going to have Nicole jump, but we've got an amazing special guest. Thanks, girl. I'll see you soon.
Bye, Kim.
Bye, honey.